Hi, CJ Brown here, the lawn coach, and I got a great email from Dave regarding grub control and synthetic fertilizers. Now, it's a bit of a complex question, and I'm not going to read the whole thing right here, but if you're looking on my website, you're going to see right up over here is the text of it, so go ahead and take a quick read. But Dave wants to know if the organic alternatives for grub control actually work, and are they worth it? And then on top of that, if he does use those and they are effective, will the synthetic fertilizers end up killing the beneficial microorganisms that work with these things? So we've got a few different complex issues here, Dave. And the first one is, do they work? I hate to tell you, but quite frankly, I've not seen even a shred of evidence that they do. In fact, a lot of the claims that are made with things like milky spore disease, which is something that it's one of those things where in theory it sounds like a good idea, but in practice it just hasn't panned out. And I have yet to see a reliable study to show that it does actually work. What you'll hear typically is people saying, oh yeah, I put milky spore on my lawn for years. It didn't work for the first year or two, but after a while, after a few years, I didn't get grubs anymore. Well, you know what? Grubs are a cyclical thing, and it's a natural phenomenon, and as such, you're not going to always get grub damage in the same spot every year, or even always get grub damage on your lawn each year. So if you hadn't treated with anything, statistically, normally you would expect that you're not going to get grubs one year, or even for a couple of years after that. That's just normal. You don't count on the fact that you're going to get grub damage in the absence of some sort of treatment. So when you look at those sorts of claims, you realize that it's almost like a placebo effect. Even though the lawn doesn't know it's being treated, at least psychologically, it's a bit of a placebo effect where people feel as though what they've been doing must have had some good. And it helps to justify the big expense that they put out as well. And that's too bad. That's really too bad. The beneficial nematodes is a bit of a different story. They are showing some sporadic results with that, at least the latest studies I've seen, that are definitely more than statistical flukes. However, they're also very erratic. In some cases, they've shown very good results. In some cases, they've shown negligible results. And I think what we're dealing with here is, organisms, the nematodes, which are basically like tiny microscopic worms that are parasites to the grubs. And what you're dealing with there is such a complex balance of nature. You put it out there, and you don't know if the circumstances in your soil or on your property, all these different factors that play in, could be completely non-conducive to the success of these nematodes. In other words, they could get out on your lawn and for one reason or another just die off before they have a chance to do their job on the grubs. So it's very complex and it's very difficult to really guarantee any sort of results with those, but at least they're showing some sort of promise. And I think with further study and further research, I'm hopeful that they're going to eventually come up with beneficial nematodes that are reliable and worth the investment. Let's go back now to your question about the synthetic fertilizers. Well, the best way to put it is this. Let's think about it for a second. A home lawn is not a natural thing, okay? Naturally speaking, you have fields of grass, and the grass is growing in the soil, and it's feeding off of nutrients that are in the soil. Well, where do those nutrients come from if not from synthetic fertilizers? They come from nature, from organic matter that's in the soil, okay, which is sort of the result of dead leaves, dead plant parts, lots of other sources as well. But what happens is the microbes in the soil gradually decompose and eat away at the organic matter in the soil, and that gives off the nutrients for the grass plant. The difference between that and synthetic fertilizers is that the synthetic fertilizers completely circumvent the microorganisms in the soil. So instead of feeding the soil and feeding the microorganisms in the soil, they feed the grass plant directly with nutrients that are already available. The grass can use it. You don't need the microbes to actually do the breaking down for you. When you continually do that year after year after year, you essentially starve out the microorganisms, and you don't have a situation in the soil where they really have much of a chance to thrive and do what they need to do. And so you are throwing the balance of nature off a bit. It's absolutely true. And quite frankly, the only way around that is to continually feed the soil as opposed to feeding the grass plant directly. And that's what you do when you use all organic fertilizers. In addition to all organic fertilizers, if you get into some other things, like top dressing the lawn with good topsoil, or even decomposed leaf compost, those are some wonderful, wonderful things that you can do to really feed the soil and give those microorganisms more of a chance to survive and kick off the nutrients for the grass naturally. So the message today is keep an eye on organics, look toward going more organic, but don't do it with just anything that claims to be all natural because it's not all great. Okay? Hope that helped, Dave. Take care.